Have you ever been in a crowded room laughing and talking, yet felt a strange, hollow ache in your chest? Or perhaps you have achieved everything you were told would make you happy: the career, the house, the accolades, only to find that you are still haunted by a sense of inexplicable sadness. This is the sound of a scream that no one else can hear. It is a scream that echoes through the corridors of your subconscious, vibrating in the silence of your quietest moments. It is the voice of your inner child, the version of you that was left behind in the shadows of your history. We live in a culture that celebrates the adult self, the logical, productive, and resilient persona that gets things done. We are taught that growing up means putting away childish things, which we often interpret as suppressing our deepest vulnerabilities. We build a wall of discipline around our hearts, convincing ourselves that we have moved on. But the truth is that the child you once were never went away. That child is still there, living in the basement of your psyche, holding on to the fears, the wounds, and the unmet needs of decades past. Consider the story of a woman named Sarah. Sarah was the ultimate high performer. She was organized, stoic, and never let her emotions get in the way of her goals to the world. She was a fortress. But Sarah suffered from chronic insomnia. Every night, the moment the lights went out and the world became quiet, she felt a wave of intense anxiety. Her heart would race, and her mind would fill with a desperate, wordless terror. She tried everything to fix it: medication, white noise, rigid sleep schedules. But the silence remained her greatest enemy. One night, instead of fighting the anxiety, Sarah decided to practice a form of Zen awareness. She stopped trying to drown out the noise, and instead, she turned her attention inward. She imagined herself walking down a long, dark hallway in her mind. At the end of the hall was a locked door. As she approached, she realized the screaming wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from behind that door. With trembling hands, she unlocked it. Inside, she didn't find a monster. She found a 7-year-old version of herself, sitting in a corner, trembling with fear. This was the Sarah who had been told to be quiet when she was grieving. This was the Sarah who had learned that her tears were a sign of weakness. For 30 years she had been locked away so that the adult Sarah could function. The anxiety Sarah felt at night wasn't an attack. It was her inner child finally getting a moment of silence to cry out for help. This is the reality for so many of us. Our self-sabotage, our sudden bursts of anger, and our deep-seated insecurities are often just the manifestations of an inner child who is tired of being ignored. To hear the truth, you must be willing to enter the silence. You must have the courage to stop doing and start being. The process of healing begins with a radical act of letting go. You must let go of the idea that you need to be fixed. You don't need a repairman. You need a guardian. You need to become the parent to yourself that you perhaps never fully had. This is the essence of emotional control, not the suppression of feelings, but the capacity to hold them with compassion. When Sarah met her inner child, she didn't try to lecture her. She didn't tell her to grow up or be strong. Instead, she sat on the floor of that mental room and said, "I hear you. I see you. You don't have to be quiet anymore." In that moment of profound reconciliation, the screaming stopped. The child didn't need a solution. She needed recognition. How do you hear your own inner child? It starts with silence, not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of listening. It requires you to notice your triggers. When you overreact to a small criticism, ask yourself, how old do I feel right now? Usually, the answer isn't 30, 5, or 50. The answer is 6 or 10. That reaction is the voice of the child who felt unfairly judged years ago. You must create a safe space within your own mind. Use the principle of Stoicism to realize that while you cannot change what happened to you in the past, you have absolute power over how you relate to that past today. You can choose to be the person who finally opens the door. You can choose to listen to the truth that was once too dangerous to speak. This is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong practice of integration. It is the discipline of checking in with yourself when you feel overwhelmed. It is the wisdom of knowing that your vulnerability is not a flaw, but the doorway to your most authentic strength. When you stop muffling the screams and start listening to the whispers, you gain an internal harmony that no external storm can disrupt. The silence is no longer a place of terror for Sarah. It is a place of connection. She no longer fears the night because she is no longer running from herself. She has integrated the child's wonder and sensitivity with the adult's strength and wisdom. Your inner child is not a burden. They are the keeper of your joy, your creativity, and your capacity for deep love. They have been screaming in the silence because they want to go home, to you. Open the door, listen to the truth, and let the healing begin.